The great invention for kicking ass!
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. For today's video, we're going to be checking out the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Q/Wheeljack, based on the Transformers 3 Dark of the Moon movie, and it's certainly a much needed update for so many reasons, but most importantly due to the original being cancelled by Hasbro, making it easily one of the most challenging figures to track down. So, as we whack up an image of how he appeared in the movie, despite the character unfortunately having minimal screen time, the figure is certainly a big step up in the accuracy department, and I really do think it's mostly worth the wait. The head sculpt is incredibly ugly, but in a cool kind of Bayformery way. This is hyper detailed, with him rocking the specs, the eccentric blue hair, and even a big old Cybertronian hieroglyph engraved into his skull. And yes guys, he most definitely does look to be incredibly inspired by Albert Einstein. There is also a ton of mechanical detail sculpted throughout the torso, depicting various weapons and gadgets, but unfortunately nearly all of this is unpainted, which I really do think is my biggest complaint with this guy. The legs too are also a big improvement in comparison to what came before. This time round, these are actually detailed and are mostly filled in front side to back, which, speaking of, the back of Q unfortunately is really nothing special. Now, in his defense, I don't really feel like we got a good enough look at him in the movie to really be able to tell what's accurate and what's not, but it is without a doubt his ugliest angle, as they've pretty much just thrown a good chunk of the vehicle mode here. I will say though that I really like how even the underside of the car panels have been detailed to almost replicate overlapping mechanical panels, which again, despite being unpainted, is still a pretty neat touch. Whipping through Wheeljack's urban combat prototypes, I've got to say that in terms of accessories, the original version still absolutely reigns supreme. That included a staff, 2 different blasters, and even a full-blown toolbox that could double as a proper buzzsaw. Whereas in the case of the new guy, he merely just includes a staff and a Cybertronian blaster, which again are completely unpainted, but for the most part have been pretty decently detailed. These can even be combined and attached onto his back, although the connection for some reason is super loose, so instead I prefer to, in all honesty, just make use out of the vehicle mode storage and whack these into that slot with no issue at all. Turning to posability, I've got to say guys that this was actually a pretty big disappointment. So to begin with, the head is on a very basic ball joint. This can look up and down and can be spun left to right. The shoulder pads are separate from the main shoulder itself, allowing these to kick forwards, backwards, as well as there out to the side. The bicep can spin and the elbows are ball jointed, although unfortunately this guy's lacking both wrist and waist articulation, something which I'm pretty certain was present on that original version. The lab coat can be kicked out to the side to allow for a pretty decent outwards range. There is even a thigh swivel, and the hips can be brought both forwards and backwards, although to be honest guys, due to the car kibble on the back, this again is honestly kinda limited. The knee can bend pretty much there to 90, which most definitely is an improvement in comparison to that original version, and whilst officially there are no proper ankle joints, you can almost fake it until you make it by making use out of the transformation joint, which I have definitely found to be quite helpful. But as the old saying goes, to see whether or not we can teach this old dog some new tricks, let's now put him through the post test. Firing through some robot mode size comparisons, on the right hand side is the Veteran, the original Transformers Deluxe Class Q. Now I'm going to be completely honest guys, for this being roughly 15 years old, it still does hold up pretty well, but in comparison to the details of the new version, undeniably it is most definitely inferior when it comes down to accuracy. So I do think sadly that it is about damn time that this guy was certainly carted off to the retirement home. Next up is the Transformers Studio Series Voyager Class Optimus Prime, Wheeljack's right-hand man, the weapons specialist, Ironhide, Deluxe Class Bumblebee, Dino, and without a doubt, these two were incredibly underused when it came down to that Dark of the Moon movie. Then finally, Sideswipe, and despite Q's minimal screen time, the scaling does appear to be pretty much on point.
We take the battle to them.
So for the first step, take a hold of the shoulder pads and kick these here upwards. You'll then spin around here to the side of Q, where we are now going to take these panels and firstly pull these here backwards and then proceed to flip these here upwards. So again guys, be sure to do the same for that second side. Pull backwards and then proceed to flip all of the way up. You'll then take the backpack, slide this backwards and then proceed to extend this here all the way up. You'll then take the windshield, spin this all the way around. Now there is a port that is now going to slide into that slot. What you'll then do is take a hold of the bicep and spin this all the way around to the back. You'll then take the elbow joint, spin this here inwards, and then take the forearm and flick this section here upwards. So again guys, be sure to do the same for that second side. Spin the bicep all the way around, take a hold of the elbow joint, spin this here inwards, and then take the forearm and flick this section here upwards. Personally, I wouldn't recommend to combine these here just yet, otherwise it can cause some pretty big clearance issues later down the line. Instead, you'll want to spin down here to the legs, where we are first of all going to make use out of that fake ankle joint. Now once you reach to this point, we can now take the foot and flip this here backwards, and the same will also apply there to the heel spur. You'll then want to complete the rotation by spinning this here all the way around, and then you'll take the back bumper and snap this here into place. And again guys, be sure to do the same for that second side. So spin inwards at the ankle, take the foot, slide this upwards, do the same for the heel spur, and complete the rotation by spinning this here all the way around. The back bumper is then going to snap into place, allowing you to then combine both halves directly down the middle. For the next step, we can now take the arms and begin to slide the fingers underneath the windshield. So again, be sure to do the same for that second side. Once completed, as I'm sure you guys would then guess, you can proceed to snap the roof into place. The roof is now going to attach into the back half of the vehicle. What you'll then do is spin up to the top of the car, where we are now going to take the front bumper and fold this here forwards. Now as we spin here to the side, you guys are going to want to make specific notes out of these hinge joints, as these are going to compress backwards. You can then take the shoulder pad and flip this here all the way around, allowing you to then take a hold of the side of the vehicle and snap this into the back of the car. What you'll then do is make use out of this hinge joint and snap this here into place. And again guys, spin around here to this side and do exactly the same. So take a hold of those hinge joints and compress those bad boys backwards. Take the shoulder itself and begin to flip this here all of the way around. Take the side of the vehicle and snap this here into the back end, and then for one final finishing touch, take that shoulder pad and snap this here into the front of the vehicle. Once that's all said and done, that right there is the transformation now completely complete. Tearing his way through the battlefield of Chicago, here is Q now fully transformed into his officially licensed Mercedes-Benz E550 vehicle mode. And again, as we compare him to how he appeared in the movie, the vehicle mode is a 10/10. To be honest, it gets zero complaints from myself. The details up front and down back are on point, even down to the tiny Mercedes insignia. And despite the figure using complete clear components for the windshield, the paint matching is near spot on to the colour of plastic. You can even make use out of the slot on the side of the vehicle to create a weaponized look for Q, something which we do see from the other Autobots in the film. And again guys, I've been mentioning it more and more often as of late, but it's brilliant to yet again see the return of proper pinned on wheels, giving Q the ability to at least try his best to evade enemy capture. Racing through some vehicle mode size comparisons, on the right hand side is the original Transformers Dark of the Moon Deluxe Class Q, the Studio Series Voyager Class Optimus Prime, Ironhide, Deluxe Class Dark of the Moon Bumblebee, Dino, then finally Sideswipe. So, wrapping up on this review for the Transformers Studio Series Deluxe Class Q. In all honesty, the figure is definitely decent. From a detail standpoint, it is a big step up in comparison to the original version. The articulation though is honestly a bit hit and miss, as whilst there is definitely some improvements here, it really is kind of tricky to get him into a pose due to the limitations of the vehicle mode kibble. The Mercedes though is great, incredibly detailed and really well put together. So in terms of a recommendation, whilst it's an okay deluxe class, I would say that if you can wait for clearance, then even better, as in comparison to some of the more recent figures released at exactly the same price point, he definitely is slacking in some departments. I would love to get your guys' thoughts on Q down in the comment section below. What do you guys think? As always, I thank you all so much for watching, and until my next review, I'll see you then. Transform and roll out!